Welcome back into the North Star Takes podcast. I'm Bailey Policki. He's Jacob Liberta. And today we're going to be talking some Minnesota Vikings draft speculation and doing another mock draft because it's mock draft season. So let's just jump right into the mock right away, Liberta, and then we'll kind of get into what we saw like with Derek Stingley's pro day. What are the chances of him being available at 12 and stuff like that. So let's just jump right in. We're trying the PFF mock draft simulator because as we found out, it seems to be the most realistic one there is. You can make trades and whatnot. So we're just going to do a 3-round mock draft with the Vikings here. I'll put it at like half speed roughly, and we'll go from there. So you ready to jump into it, Liberta?
Yeah, absolutely. Can't wait. We're getting closer and closer to the draft. So I'm getting very excited hearing about all these pro days that people are having that are either bringing them up or taking them down the board.
I know we're only 3 weeks out from the draft, which is insane. Like the speculation's really starting to pick up now too. You can see all these rumors floating around about all these guys.
Absolutely.
All right, so it looks like no huge surprises in the top 3, but then Derek Stingley going 4 to the Jets.
Okay.
And Sauce Gardner going 7 to the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Garrett Wilson and Drake London getting selected. So we're sitting here at 12. We don't have either of the top 2 corners that we coveted, and it appears that Garrett Wilson, who I think is probably the best receiver in this draft, is off the board as well. Now, we could stay here and draft like a Chris Olave, a Jameson Williams. We could also pick like George Karlaftis to fill in some depth at edge. Trent McDuffie's obviously on the table too, but if people are projecting him to be more of a nickel corner, I don't know if that excites me at pick 12.
No.
We also do have some interest in a trade for this pick as well, so we should probably look into that. I'm thinking, what do you think, Liberta?
Yeah, let's start there and see who's going.
Oh, Pittsburgh's interested.
All right.
And that really is the ideal pick. Green Bay is also interested, and then Jacksonville and the Colts coming from the second round. But I think sliding back to 20 is the ideal scenario, especially if we can somehow try to manage getting a first-round pick for next year. We'll see what the likelihood of that is here.
Yeah.
15% chance.
Right.
Maybe we'd have to throw in a sweetener of some sort here.
Yeah, maybe throw in one of those later-round picks for us this year.
And that doesn't move the needle much.
Ooh.
That doesn't move it much. But it says 25% chance, so let's try that for now.
Let's give it a shot.
And they accepted it.
All right.
So they're desperate enough to move up to 12. So they picked – wow, they traded up to pick George Karlaftis, which is a guy you and I maybe would have picked, but we're not pounding the table for him by any means. All right, so I'm going to slow this down here as the picks keep rolling. So Devin Lloyd goes to the Texans.
Mm-hmm.
Jameson Williams to the Eagles. Malik Willis.
All right.
Oh, and Olave got sniped right before our pick there.
Olave and Willis. I can't talk. Olave and Willis. That's a pretty good first round of the draft for the Saints.
No kidding. That's a pretty dynamic duo there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, we're sitting here at 20. We could take a chance on a guy like Kaiir Elam. Andrew Booth is still available. Ojabo's probably not worthy of a first-round selection at this point.
No.
Jordan Davis. We could even take Tyler Linderbaum. I'm not a huge fan of drafting a center in the first round, but I'll keep going down the list here. Boye Maffe's sitting there. Is anybody really sticking out to you here, Liberta? It sucks because I think this would have been a perfect spot for Olave if he wasn't picked at 19.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was going to say Ebikite. I know I've seen his name. I think earlier on in the process he was floating more towards the first round, but now I think he's projecting more as a second-round pick. But he's a very explosive pass rusher, and I think he could be a decent pick, but that might be a little rich here. So
yeah,
I'm kind of leaning the way of Kaiir Elam, but
okay.
I guess I'm not sure how you're feeling.
I think I'm in agreement with you there. I mean, he's probably more of a back end of the first round guy, but I mean, he's kind of got that prototype you want. He's an outside corner. Mm-hmm. And I mean, Andrew Booth just doesn't do a whole lot for me either.
No. So what's Elam's size actually?
So Elam is 6'2", 196. So he's a bigger dude.
That's ideal.
And then Andrew Booth is 6'0", 195. So it's not like he's small, but yeah, I guess I'd be fine with either of these guys, honestly.
Yeah, me too.
Let's do Kyrie Elam.
Let's do Elam. Yeah.
So we got Kyrie Elam, who's going to factor in right away to the cornerback equation. And we also got a first-round pick for next year. So next year we own 2 first-round picks in a supposedly quarterback-heavy draft, or at least where the quarterback talent is better than this year. So that's encouraging.
Let's hope that's really the case.
All right, I can speed this up a little bit here.
Boye Mafe, top of the second round.
So they got Dotson. So the Jags got Aiden Hutchinson and Boye Mafe.
Yeah. That's a good pass rushing duo.
Yeah, it is.
All right.
So George Pickens is off the board. Matt Corral's off the board. Kenny Pickett actually fell all the way into the second round.
Wow.
Zion Johnson would have been nice to get too.
Let's see.
So we got Desmond Ridder still available. I think that's kind of an intriguing pick.
That is interesting.
Jaquan Brisker. I know we don't necessarily need another safety, but that's tempting.
Do you double down on corners and pick Jalen Petrie here?
You could absolutely double down. Christian Harris, I think, is an intriguing linebacker. Yeah, I guess no one else is really sticking out. It's probably too high to draft like a Dylan Parham.
Might be able to snag him third round.
Yeah.
I don't hate the idea of doubling down there.
I'm kind of with you. Let's do it.
Because you got to think at least one of them should turn out then, right?
You would hope so. So the Steelers want to trade again. So
I'm thirsty.
I'm wondering if we could slide down 6 spots and pick up another compensatory pick, which that would be a third rounder, right? 138.
That one would be a fourth.
Fourth? Okay.
Yep.
I don't know if that's worth it. Let's just stay at our pick because we need to get talent in here.
Sure.
All right, we'll double down on corner. I think Petrie's probably your best value here. So
absolutely. I like that. One of them's got to work out.
Exactly. So now we're probably looking at either edge rusher or interior offensive line or maybe a wide receiver.
Yeah, because if you think about it, rounding out our cornerback room now would be those 2 draft picks plus Peterson, Sullivan, and Dantzler. So I'd actually feel a lot better about that now than I definitely would have a couple weeks ago.
For sure. Christian Watson was selected by the Bears. I should have looked harder for him because I'm obviously a big NDSU guy.
Yeah.
So that's another tempting one, too, to pick a receiver there in the second round. All right. So our last pick here in the third round. I've seen some good stuff about Khalil Shakir. There's also some interior. Cole Strange has been getting a lot of hype lately.
Actually, I wouldn't mind going that direction.
This might not be a bad spot to pick him. So, yeah, either him or a receiver, but I think we got to get some interior offensive line help here. So
more competition.
Yes. We basically picked for need this entire time, but that's all right.
Yeah.
I think honestly,
solid draft picks.
For sure. And I think the big win in this scenario is getting that first round pick for next year.
Yeah, exactly. I think walking away from the first night of the draft with Elam and an extra first round pick, I think that's massive. I'd be very satisfied.
Yeah, I would too. All right, so it's over. Let's see what grade we got. Thinks.
8+ with the Petrie pick.
Nice.
All right, and an A draft. Let's go.
I'll take that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'd be pretty happy walking away from the first 2 days of the draft with these 3 guys, especially considering that, like we keep saying, the extra first round pick.
Absolutely. So that's fun. We'll have to keep toying around with the PFF one because all that trading back and stuff is an absolute game changer. So
absolutely. Maybe we could even tinker with trading up a little bit.
Yeah, true. That's a good point. See, we could really slow play a draft and then see who's available, maybe sitting around 9 or 10 or something.
Yeah.
All right, so let's just jump into some of the latest rumors here. I mean, there's not a whole lot. I know people have kind of been starting to pick up on the idea of the Vikings maybe drafting a receiver. Specifically, the Ohio State wide receivers have been talked about, and that's just within Vikings Twitter. And I even heard Paul Allen talking about it this morning, saying, "Don't be surprised if the Vikings go offense, just given like what Kevin O'Connell and the Rams like to do." So
Yeah.
it's intriguing for sure, because I think a lot of people are starting to come to the realization that those top two corners are probably not going to be there. It's because it's looking more and more like Stingley's values raising again after it dropped for a while. So, what are your thoughts on maybe just where the Vikings are standing at 12?
Yeah, if you can't get one of those top two corners, I think the best value there might be one of those Ohio State receivers because I'm not sold on Drake London or Traylon Burks or
Mm-mm.
anybody like that. But if you're talking about a vertical threat like James Williams or talking about just the great route runners with safe floors like Olave and Wilson, I think that's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely the pick there just because you're not really sure about any of the corners after the top two. So that feels like a pretty rich selection at 12 there to go with a guy like McDuffie. And if you're going to do that, then you might as well trade back. But if you're not, you want to stand pat and pick a 12, then yeah, probably one of those receivers, or maybe get lucky like, that Purdue edge rusher Carl Aftis ends up
Yep.
falling down the board. That feels like a pretty good value pick too. I know his measurables as far as where he graded out in comparison to his peers in college football last season as far as percentiles go. He was always in the 80s or 90s. So especially pass rush win rate, I think
Yep.
he was in the 98th percentile, which is just absurd. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that would excite me a lot because I know Smith and Hunter are very good, but they're both very injury prone. So there's probably a good chance at least one of them misses a decent amount of time. So it'd be kind of nice to have that insurance policy in your back pocket, but at the same
Right.
time, maybe it feels a little bit too much to load up like that at the position. But the thing is, it's not like Carl Aftis is just helping you this year. It's like this could be for a long time. So
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely entertain that as well.
For sure. And I think that's what makes this draft so intriguing, is there's so many different ways they can go that wouldn't be upsetting or disappointing. Like
Mm-hmm.
obviously corner is a major need, and it'd be awesome to get a Sauce or a Stingley, because those are two potential, lockdown corners that, have swag and will talk some trash to the opposing team and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You want that in a corner. And if those guys aren't available, then like you said, there could still be a Karlaftis. There could be any of those wide receivers available, which could make it intriguing to possibly trade down like we did in our mock,
Mm-hmm.
maybe acquire a pick for next year. And, maybe you get lucky and one of those three wide receivers is still sitting there when you're at 20 and you can snag them or something like that. So
Yeah.
there's all sorts of different directions they could go. And there's still a very, very small chance they could pick a quarterback. Like if these quarterbacks aren't going to be going, according to the PFF simulation, there was no quarterbacks taken before our pick. Well, I mean, that's pretty intriguing, I think, too. So there's so many different ways to go.
Yeah, I think that would shake up a lot of people if we took a quarterback here after extending Kirk like that. Especially feels like that's all those rumors have fallen by the wayside. I know coming into the offseason, it felt like there was a decent chance for that happening with a
Mm-hmm.
new coach, new regime. Feels like a perfect time to start over at quarterback and bring in a rookie. But now with the obviously Kirk being around for the next couple of years, then it doesn't feel like it makes as much sense. But who knows? Maybe we don't really know how Quasi's going to approach the draft, so he could light the world on fire and get Vikings Twitter all stirred up by taking a quarterback here and really challenging Kirk, I guess, to get it together and prove he's the kind of guy we'll roll with for more than a couple of years.
That's the thing too. Like it wouldn't make sense to draft a quarterback this year just simply because you'd be wasting 2 years of his rookie deal, kind of like what the Packers did with Jordan Love.
Exactly.
And now Jordan Love is probably going to need to find a new home. Otherwise, he's going to sit there and collect dust on that Packers bench.
Yep.
And every single season that he's not traded, he's just going to keep losing value.
Yep. Unless you're a big believer in that idea out there, some people are conspiracy theorists and like to throw out these things. And this one I don't think is true. But I mean, for what it's worth, it's like in some reality or some world, I can see it being a thing where the Packers, like a couple years ago, when they took Jordan Love, they traded up to take Jordan Love,
Yeah.
and they're like they knew how Aaron Rodgers ticks, and it's like they knew this was just going to bring a beast out of him as far as like being like, yeah, I'm the guy. Like this is stupid. You did that, so I'm gonna go like put out my best performance, and I'm going to prove why I'm like the guy not only on this team but in the NFL. And he put together back-to-back MVP seasons. So if you feel like Kirk would respond like that, then I mean maybe you entertain, especially if a guy like Willis is there that you could take a chance on. But
Yeah.
like outside him, I probably wouldn't want to. But Willis, I would definitely entertain.
Yeah, and I don't know if Kirk's got that same mentality when it comes to being challenged.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
I think that's why Sean Mannion's been the backup quarterback the last few seasons.
Exactly. I don't think Kirk's a killer like Aaron Rodgers, but
no. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, if you had to put a percentage on it, just given based off what you realistically think will happen and kind of what you're hoping happens as well, maybe maybe like a pie chart or something, adding up to 100%. What would you put your odds at of what position we draft at 12?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've thought about this a little bit already, and I'm kind of leaning towards probably a 50-50 chance we take a corner there. I think that's very realistically a possibility, especially with the need there for long-term players, because obviously Sullivan and Pat P don't project maybe as those long-term options. So we need somebody to play opposite Dantzler, and that feels like a very worthy selection, especially if Stingley or Sauce is there. So I think that's very much in play there, 50-50. And then at this point, I would say there's like, dare I say, a 30% chance of it being a wide receiver, just because that feels like where the value is at pick 12 there with the players I projected to go off the board before that. So I think there's a decent chance of that happening. And then that'd probably leave me with 20%. So I'd put another 15, maybe 18% on an edge rusher, just because I think that's another one where we could use a long-term option, because I know Hunter and Smith, we're not quite sure how long they'll really be around here or not. So I think that would be a worthy pick, especially, again, another value pick where it's like a Carl Laftis or maybe a Jermaine Johnson or something. Feel good taking as high as 12. And then I would say beyond that, have an extra 5%, something like that, where it could literally be anything where Coisy just pulls it out of a hat and you just have no idea what's coming because you've never seen him draft before. So there's always that wild card factor you got to account for in the draft.
True, because I mean, given his analytical background, he's probably got all sorts of different info and stuff on these players that nobody's even thought of. That he might pick, not a safety, I guess, but maybe he'll pick like a offensive tackle or something. You're like, what are you doing? Well, analytically, he thinks he can convert this guy to guard or something, which, as we've seen, not the best way to go about it.
It's playing with fire.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. Hopefully that doesn't come to that. Hopefully he just makes the obvious pick. I mean, hopefully there's someone sitting there at 12 where it's like, okay, this is who we are taking, because it's pretty obvious. Like, if Garrett Wilson's sitting there at 12 and Sauce and Stingley are gone, like, I'm taking Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, 100%. Now, Bale, how about you? What are your percentages? What do you put this at as far as our odds to take a specific position at 12?
I'm going to put corner at 30%.
Ooh, okay. That's a lot lower than I think people would project.
I think, just because I think, like, as we've seen in these mocks, Sauce and Stingley are going to be going top 10 for sure.
Yep.
And even a team that could potentially take a corner like Seattle or Washington in front of us, they can maybe think highly of Trent McDuffie. And I just don't see him being a huge fit for the Vikings, especially needing an outside corner. And so I know he played outside corner in college, but he projects more as a nickel in the NFL. So I don't see that being super realistic. So I said what, 35% for corner? I'll give 45% to wide receiver then. So that adds up to 80. Because I just, like you said, the value is there. And if these receivers aren't taken in the top 10, you're going to have your pick of the litter. You can pick any of them, whoever you think best fits your scheme. I'm sure Kevin O'Connell will be thrilled with another wide receiver. So I'm the more I think about it, the more I think wide receiver is probably the most realistic possibility. And then
that's a hot take. Wow. I mean, your logic totally makes sense, but like, imagine where we were just a few weeks ago. I know. Even right this moment with some people, it's like, that seems like such a far off thing. Like, oh, we got Thielen with Jefferson, we're fine. We got Osborne, who's the third receiver. But it's like, think about all the championship teams, how deep they go in the wide receiver room. Like, there's talent everywhere. So that could very much be a possibility, especially if we're loading up on offense and banking on this KOC Kirk tandem to lead us all the way. Well, then you better. Yeah, why not? I mean, just make your offense as good as it possibly can get.
And here's what I'll say. Good teams build their teams by drafting best player available. You don't
Yeah.
reach and draft for a need. That's how Garrett Bradbury happened.
Chris.
And that's why I don't think Tyler Linderbaum should happen. I'll finish out my pie chart here in a sec. But
Yeah.
like, eventually in a couple of years, Justin Jefferson is going to get absolutely paid. That dude's going to have a massive contract. So you're going to need another cheap wide receiver across from him, because at that point, Adam Thielen's either going to be retired or he won't be with the Vikings anymore because he's going to cost
making
too
a lot
much
of money
money.
too. Yeah.
Exactly. So it would make sense in a draft where there's some extremely skilled wide receivers, 2 from Ohio State specifically, or just a burner from Alabama and Jamison Williams. I think
Former
it
Ohio
makes
State wide receiver.
Yeah, exactly. It makes a ton of sense. So that's why I have that percentage so high.
I love it.
From there, see, I got 20% left to play with. I'll go 12% edge rusher, just because that's our next greatest need.
Yeah.
And then 8% to just interior offensive linemen, whether it's Linderbaum, whether it's that like a guard of something. I'm struggling to come up with names, but just an interior lineman. Maybe they even like reach on a guy that's kind of a late first round talent, but they just pick him there. I mean, I would hope they would trade back in that scenario, but just if we're just talking strictly picking at 12, that's kind of how I see it shaking out.
Yeah, no, I like that. I love it. 45% wide receiver. Now you got me feeling pretty good about it.
Maybe it's more wishful thinking than anything else. I don't know.
I know. I'm afraid to get my hopes up because I'm like, I would love to take one of those Ohio State receivers or James Williams. I'd be so excited about that because it's always fun to add a skill position player that high in the draft. But I guess I don't know what the likelihood of it is or not. It just all depends what Kwesi's thinking. We're going to get a real vibe for the way he rolls after this first draft. Just got to get past this first draft, though, and see what happens.
Absolutely. So do you have any other final thoughts before we take off? I mean, we'll be doing a draft video a week up until the draft just because there's so many moving parts here.
Yeah, I guess my last thought would be probably got to temper the hope of getting, like you said, Stingler Sauce. Feels more and more likely every day. And after every rumor you hear that they're going to go top 10, so we'd have to trade up to get one of them. And that feels a little risky with the corner because sometimes they can be pretty unpredictable. Even with them, like they have the athletic profile, all the talent in the world, college production to back it up, but it's just corners sometimes can be a crapshoot. So that feels a little risky. So it all depends on what you'd have to trade up or what you'd have to trade to move up the board to get one of them. So as much as it pains me to say it, I think we got to consider our other options. And like you said, when you paint a nice picture here, that it seems like wide receiver would make the most sense. Yeah,
for sure. So it's gonna be crazy, man. I think Kwesi's gonna definitely throw a couple curveballs, but it just remains to be seen what they'll be. So I'm looking forward to it. And obviously the draft is the big event in the offseason, so I know everybody's looking forward to it. So that's going to do it for this edition of the North Star Takes podcast. Please click the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Feel free to give us a follow on both Twitter and Instagram and let us know your thoughts below. How do you think we did on the mock draft? Do you think doubling down on corner was not such a good idea? Should we have not traded back, etc.? So, let us know your thoughts below, what you think the Vikings are going to do in this draft, and maybe what you think the likelihood is of them picking a certain position. So until next time, thanks for watching.